Welcome to Cinema-Savants, your home for all your movie and TV news, with Todd Vandenberg, Lee Vowell, and Rob Steele.
And coming up in this week's show, well, you remember last week's show where we had Comic-Con and the bajillion things that happened? This week, everyone was tired from last week, so we don't have anywhere near as much. We don't even have Lee this week, which is a shame because Nev Campbell will be dropping by later. And I'm kidding. It's just to get Lee riled up because he has a thing. Yeah. I don't know. Big news for this week. Let's get started with MoviePass.
Yes,
which had issues to the point where they lost money or enough money that it stopped working on Thursday.
Yes, they ran out of cash. And initially they explained it as just kind of a glitch. And then the next day in a filing with, I think it was the Securities and Exchange Commission.
SEC.
They had
quick thing. Do you all ever get confused when they say it's an SEC investigation and then immediately in your head go to college football or something?
I never get confused because I always think it's college football. And then later after I read it, I think, oh, wait, now that makes sense. Yes, I always think college football.
It's when you get this acronym. I'm like, you come up with an original acronym. That one's already used.
I didn't realize Nick Saban was involved with Sony Universal. Anyway,
as we were.
Anyway, yeah, they actually could not make a $5 million payment to their processors. Oops. So yeah, that's kind of a problem if you're supposed to be a huge company and you miss a payment, and they had to borrow cash to do this. They've already. When Lee was on one of his rare instances of actually being on the show last week, sorry, Lee, kidding. And he had said that, he wasn't even sure exactly what his plan was because they've changed the plan so often. And to the best of my knowledge now, it's still, if you sign up, it's assuming their servers work that you could actually sign up, that you get one movie. You get one movie a day. And so it's like 30 movies a month, which is cool. Yeah. And the restrictions have always been, and it's 2D only, no 3D, no IMAX. Well, that's cool because they cost more anyway. And personally, I don't care about those formats anyway that much, so that's all right. Then they said, well, you can't go see the same movie twice. It's like, well, okay, that kind of sucks. But I get the idea because this way they're promoting smaller films. And in some cases, the MoviePass portion of the audience has been a big percentage of smaller films, that's cool because you're helping promote these movies being seen. Right. And the movie companies, they get all the money because MoviePass pays the full ticket value. That's, of course, why they are running into cash problems because they're taking in $10 a month, and in some cases they're paying out $40, $50, $100 a month, and they're only getting 10. And they've not gotten to the scale where they're making money by selling advertising or whatever their actual plan was ever going to be. Then they introduced peak pricing. They add either, which we talked about last week, they add either $4.01 or $3.51 to whichever film you want to see. And I'll touch on that briefly. Today, I'm in Miami Beach, or Miami today. Today at the Regal Cinema in South Beach, every showing of every film is marked as peak pricing. Now, I'm pretty sure that Three Identical Strangers, which is, from what I've heard, is a really good film.
Bit on the independent scene.
Definitely on the independent scene. And I don't think the 11:35 a.m. showing is really going to be packed. This kind of comes on the heels of a lot of people writing in on social media and saying, wow, that's a mixed weirdness. They're in theaters that are almost empty, and they paid peak pricing. So obviously they need cash, and this is the way to get cash because you got to pay extra to get in, and that's going to help supplant the minuscule amount that they have to pay in. The big deal is, to me, the biggest deal, other than peak pricing for every film, every showing today, because it wasn't like that yesterday. It was just what you would kind of think of was be peak pricing, although it seemed to be a little much. Mission Impossible, you can't go see it on MoviePass, not at any theater, at least not in Miami. And that's been the report that they've blacked out Mission Impossible because that would be a huge charge to them, obviously.
They didn't
Mission
black it
Impossible,
out, they redacted it.
And there you go, exactly. Because Mission Impossible looks like it's going to make $60 million. and they don't really want to chip in. I don't know if they had, let's say they had 10, 15% of the audience. They don't want to chip in $10 million of that after they've taken in your $10, and they already took it in earlier in the month. So originally in the show notes, I was going to say, yeah, I think MoviePass, I don't think they're going to make it to Christmas. And I thought, no, I'll put Thanksgiving, and then I didn't write it at all. But now I kind of think they might be gone by Labor Day, which really, really sucks.
Yeah.
Because it's a great service, and it's still, even with the peak pricing thing, it's not nearly as valuable as it used to be, obviously, because now you're paying $4 extra for the movies, so it doesn't save you nearly as much money. But okay, so if you see 10 movies a month ago on MoviePass, it's $10. Well, now it's going to be $50, but it's still averages $5 a movie. It's still really cheap. That's still a great deal.
I mean, if you're going anyway, yes, do it.
But it's not what it used to be, and it's a perception of it, and that's really going to hurt, because now AMC's got their deal, and it's $20 a month. Yeah, it's twice as much, but with peak pricing, now all of a sudden they're cheaper, and they give them other discounts, and you can go to 2D and IMAX, and they do have a restriction. It's 3 movies a week, but seriously, there aren't too many people, other than like movie critics, who want to see more than 3 movies in a given week. So all of a sudden AMC's actually looks quite a bit more attractive than MoviePass, because AMC's not blanking out or redacting Mission Impossible. With that decision, I get it, because they're cash strapped, and they probably would have gone under again and couldn't have processed the payments. But I think they just knifed themselves in the throat with that one. And it's really sad, because it was a cool service. And it's not like this is something, oh, we hate our customers. It's just gotten to the point where it's not working, which is really sad.
I'll agree. I mean, I don't have it because I don't actually have a theater that's close enough to me to go see movies as much as I'd like, even though, yes, this is a movie show. Boy, it would be nice, but it
is nice. And like I said, even with the peak pricing thing, it's nice. Yeah. But I mean, to the point now where the first Purge, the 10:40 p.m. movie, 10:40 p.m. peak pricing. Unfriended, Dark Web. I mean, it's everything. Stuff that has been out for a month that, and small films like Blind Spotting and like 3 Identical Strangers, which has actually been out for almost a month now. And as a small indie film, every show is peak pricing. It's like, no, that's sad.
I did see where 3 Identical Strangers is getting a sequel. So maybe that helped, getting enough people to go see the first one.
4 non-identical?
Eddie Murphy's going to be one in the next film.
Martin Short.
I hope I'm making that up. No, okay. The SEC thing. There's another one, because you mentioned it in this, just now. AMC, the theater chain, or the TV channel. I don't know if they're run by the same people or not. They could be. They had news this week too. They're bringing back Chris Hardwick to the network, not the theater. I'm not sure he's ever been in the theater.
I don't know.
But yeah, they axed him a couple months ago,
right?
Because he allegedly assaulted his ex-girlfriend, ex-wife, current girlfriend. No one really understood who Chloe Dykstra was, other than she's not related to Lenny.
I think she might be at this point.
She could be, but they decided, you know what? There's really nothing to this story, so they're bringing him back. So we'll start hearing about Chris's again soon. And
yes, we should. And we've talked about this several times in several different incarnations of what's going on. Yeah, unfortunately. And this is the biggest example of this rush to judgment. And as we've all pointed out, yes, we absolutely support the Me Too movement, because typically, 95, 98%, maybe it's 99.9% of the cases, it's true. In this case, it wasn't. And the fact that they took one day and said, "Oh, sorry, you're off the network." They couldn't possibly have time to verify anything in a day. And like you said, now it's been...
Well, I mean, with all the articles on it, they couldn't even figure out who she was related to him.
Right.
How can you possibly figure out whether or not he did anything to her that she didn't want?
And there was... And the basis of it was that she said this happened. There wasn't anything corroborating it. No other witnesses, nothing else. And granted, in a lot of cases, that's going to be how it is. I get that.
In a lot of those.
Right, of course. But you literally took zero time to even consider this, and it was just a knee-jerk reaction. Oh, we can't have this. We got to make something happen. And now there's a big problem here because a lot of people, they'll see him come back and they'll think, oh God, it's like he's the guy who did that to his girlfriend. It's like, no, he didn't. To the best of our knowledge. Let's make sure we say that because it's possible.
Please don't sue us. We have less money than MoviePass.
But do we really? Oh my God. Anyway,
I do.
I have some change in my pocket, literally. So I'm sorry. I think I do have more money than MoviePass. It's 5 quarters. Anyway, there were tons. There were articles all over the place. Chris Hardwick fired. I didn't see a lot of articles. Chris Hardwick rehired. There's articles out there, but it's 10%.
I saw one.
There's maybe 100th of the articles of the newsworthiness of this, which sucks because this should be a bigger story than the fact that he got fired, because his reputation is permanently damaged because of this. And obviously it's not going to help him to sue her for defamation or whatever, because it's just going to keep the story alive. It wouldn't do any good. No. But it just really sucks that, again, as we've said, it's like apply a little caution to this. There's plenty of time to make sure we've got the right story. And I understand, and maybe technically we shouldn't say he was fired. He was taken off the air. I never read if they actually stopped paying him or anything. So that might not have been the case at all. But at least, give it a few days, a couple of weeks. I mean, Comic-Con, huge, obviously, a huge thing. And he wasn't at Comic-Con.
Which is weird because he's been at the past, 7,000 or 8,000 of them.
Yeah. So it's the fact that he was absolutely scrubbed off the Nerdist, which is a site that he co-founded. And, it's just, guys, just take it a little easy on this and try to get some facts before you just have this knee-jerk thing. It's like, oh, my God, someone said something. We got to erase this person from our presence. It's like,
that wasn't even a knee-jerk thing. It was a blown ACL completely.
Yeah, much better way to put it. So anyway, we're happy to see that Chris Hardwick is back, and because I mean,
as much as we tease him, we like him.
Yeah, and even if we didn't like him, the guy shouldn't lose his gig over false accusations. And yeah, he's fun. I think he's really fun, and he's one of the co-creators almost in a way of nerd culture. I mean, because he's been out there doing this for, like you said, it seems like 7,000 years. So yeah. It's good that he's got his gig back, and I'll be interested to see him on the air for the first time. I just wonder if because he seems like he would say something about it. And something funny, not, he'll just make some little random side quip that some people might not even get because that's how he does stuff. So anyway, good for him, and bad for people like Les, and that's all I'll say about that.
Right. Well, actually, there was another one that.
Oh, of course.
Well, there's a lot of people. There's a bajillion of them.
Yeah, exactly.
But we talked last week about James Gunn.
Yeah.
Getting fired from Guardians of the Galaxy 3 because his Twitter account 10 years ago said something that he was trying to be provocative about and gather attention to himself, and it did not go well. And he even deleted the Twitter account. But people, it was actually a conservative radio show, I believe, who went back and dragged it out and said, look what he said so long ago. I'm like, look what Trump is saying. Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. Anyway.
Right, exactly. But
so Disney, with its infinite wisdom, decided to yank him off Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And we heard from a couple of people who were in the movie who went, don't do that. Mm-hmm. And then the petition began, which we did not have this when we recorded last week.
Right.
Which was Sunday morning, because that's when we skip church and start recording shows. By the end of last Sunday, which is, as near as I can tell, is when they started this, 50,000 people had signed it by last Sunday. Monday, about 3 in the morning, it had ballooned to, by the end of our recording last Sunday, 50,000 people had signed it. By 7 o'clock Sunday night, 58,000. By Monday morning at 10 a.m., 168,000 people have said, no, don't do that, put him back. I do not have a current figure because I've lost track of where it is. But
well, there are, and the thing is, there are multiple petitions. I've just clicked on one, and there are 331,000.
yeah.
One thing I'll say about petitions, because there's a petition for the James Snyder cut of Justice League, and we talked about that.
I would like to point out that we are well beyond where the Snyder cut of Justice League.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and it's an entirely different thing.
Yeah.
But the Snyder cut of Justice League, I think there were last I checked was 180,000 signees, which is a lot. And until you realize that Justice League made hundreds of millions of dollars, which means millions and millions of people saw it and probably don't really want to see the Zack Snyder cut. So it's kind of like a little drop of water, and it's not going to happen, which is, the whole thing is stupid because they put him off the project. So why would they want a cut of the movie from the guy that they dumped? Not going to happen. Anyway, back to the James Gunn petition. And you and Lee both said, this is basically, you said this is stupid. They shouldn't have done it. And I'm kind of on the other side of the fence because of the pedophilia jokes. And I totally get that they were jokes.
Right.
But I also get that it's Disney, and it's not really a good look, regardless of when he said them. It's not a good look to have a guy making movies for you that joked about having little boys touch your thing. It's not. You can't really do that.
Well, Catholic Church.
I know, but they don't hire 88-year-old archbishops either, or cardinals. So
the South.
But they wouldn't make that today, and that's the difference.
No, he wouldn't make those comments today either.
He wouldn't.
So it's the same.
But they pretty much tried to erase Song of the South, right? Because it was forever before it was ever released on video. So, I mean, it's not like, oh, we're doing a reissue and we're going to show this in the movie theaters, just like we do, Sleepy Pete. It's like, no, they don't do that. They don't promote it.
No, it never existed. Never existed on DVD. Never existed. The VHS was snatched up. Mm-hmm. And now, if you can find it on eBay, it goes for several $100s because
it's rare.
Honus Wagner T206.
And I get the thing with James Gunn that it was 10 years ago and he was joking, and like I said last week, I mean, we've all said things that, wow, really would like to be able to take that back, but once it's out there, you can't take it back. And the thing is, to me, if it was another studio, I would think they would just shrug it off. But the fact that it's Disney is what makes the difference, because of their image.
It's not entirely their fault. Disney bought everybody.
Yeah, you're getting very close to buying everybody, and we'll get to that. So, and I totally get the outrage, and it is outrage that he's been taken off because he's done a terrific job, and the reason he was targeted is because he's very pro-human, I guess is the best way to put it. And the very right-wing arch-conservative groups don't like that. So, we have a way to take him down. Let's publicize this. So it sucks. It's a crappy situation, but I can see why they did it. James Gunn himself said he can see why they did it.
Yeah.
And like you said, several people who have been in his movies, they don't see it, and it's an unfortunate situation. But this is not the Chris Hardwick situation, because he did do this. And again, he made jokes 10 years ago, compared to, like you said, there are certain political figures who make jokes and not even joking. They're not even jokes, make serious statements, and it's no problem whatsoever. Yeah. So it's a little bit of an unusual circumstance where some people can do and say anything, and other people, some poorly thought out joke gets them fired, something that they wrote 10 years ago. So
behold the hypocrisy.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty crappy. But it's not like he's not going to work in the industry again. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see Disney hire him again in the future. And who knows, he may be back for the third one, because they got some time.
I'm thinking they should do what Bobby Valentine did back in the playoffs when he was ejected from the playoff game. Manager of the Mets, when you get ejected from the game, supposed to go back into the clubhouse, and that is the end of you for the game. But he put on a different T-shirt and a fake mustache, came back out and finished managing the game. I think James Gunn should do that.
He could do that. Or I thought you were referring to go manage in Japan for 2 years, and I thought, oh, he's going to go work for Studio Ghibli for a couple of years. That would be awesome too.
That would work.
That would totally work. Anyway,
how about some actual movie?
Yeah, that's good.
News. We've got some of that on the show. DC announced that for some of their shows on their forthcoming streaming service, namely the Titans and Doom Patrol, are going to be tied together. We knew that, but no one else is going to be tied together in any way, because Titans and Doom Patrol have always had a lot of crossover. Their series for Swamp Thing and Stargirl are not only not related to each other, none of these are going to be related to the Arrowverse, which is the shows in the CW, Arrow and Flash and Legends of Tomorrow and Supergirl, and the forthcoming Batwoman series, or Black Lightning, which I'm sure is going to be. You know what? They said that Flash was not going to be tied in. They said Supergirl was not going to be tied in. I give it, I don't know, maybe 18 months on the outside before Stargirl shows up next to Green Arrow.
It doesn't make any sense not to tie them in.
It doesn't. You've got them, tie them, use them anyway. The Batman being the next movie that they're supposed to be working on, or at least one of them. Will Ben Affleck be in it? We don't know. At the moment, it looks unlikely because they're going to go back and do something similar to Frank Miller's Batman Year One series. Oh, goody. Because we need another Batman origin story. He's only had 7,000 or 8,000 of them. But there is a bit of odd casting this week, and I'm trying to find the name because I've lost it. There we go. Boardwalk Empire and Ben-Hur actor Jack Houston is supposed to be playing Harvey Dent, who becomes Two-Face at some point.
Yeah.
But when I first read that, I read Ben-Hur actor. I'm like, aren't they all dead? That movie? Oh, that's right. They remade it, and it flopped. Anyway, I didn't see it, and I know very little about him other than, oh, here's his picture, and sure, why not? He looks like he could have his face blown off.
Like most people, I really enjoy Batman movies. I mean, even the George Clooney disaster, and it's not his fault, it's Joel Schumacher, but that's even fun. I mean, it's so campy, it's ridiculous. It's almost worse than the TV show.
That one was more campy than the Adam West series.
Yeah, exactly, than the TV show. It's so over the top, but it's still enjoyable. I mean, I've probably seen it 6 times. Not lately, thank God. But I am not one bit interested in the new Batman movie. I'm really not, because it's like you said. It's like I don't need to see his origin again. I don't really. We don't need to go back to Year One because it's an interesting storyline. It's an interesting take. I mean, it makes perfect sense that Miller wrote it. But
it was a mini series in the books.
Exactly, and it was a very cool thing to redo.
And we've got the animated version, which works just as well.
But who do we really want to see Batman figuring out how to be Batman again?
Aren't they doing that in Gotham?
It's just no. I want to see Batman when he's the world's greatest detective, and he's got all the super cool gadgets. I want to see him be Batman, not running around beating up thugs. It's just no. This is not interesting at all. It doesn't fit in with your universe at all.
Nope.
God, Warner Brothers is like, every time they make a good move, it's like they take 3 steps back. It's just, holy cow, they don't shoot themselves in the foot. They shoot themselves in the femoral artery and just bleed out.
That's about right.
Jeez. I mean, and this is big casting news. It's like, thank God he's not Batman, but...
Well, speaking of casting news, Star Wars Episode 9 has announced its cast list. You remember all the people who were in the previous one? Yeah, they're going to be back. Add Billy D. Williams. Who did they kill off in the previous one?
Oh, no.
Snoke.
Yeah.
Oh no. I'm sure even he's going to be back, because someone said that Andy Serkis is somewhere in this movie. And that's who played Snoke. So...
He's a Force Snoke.
There we go. A puff of Snoke. They did say that Carrie Fisher is going to be in this as Princess Leia again.
Right.
But they're not going to CG her in like they did in, Rogue One. They're going to be using previously unused footage and mix that in. You know what? That's the way you should do it.
Yeah. And hopefully it's just a few scenes because...
Right.
And hopefully they figure out a really good way to tie in whatever she's saying or doing without entirely rewriting the script. Well, I'm going to have to rewrite the script to some extent, but without making major changes in the story arc, just so they can fit her in. Like, geez, you know. I don't really care if Carrie Fisher is in this movie because I don't care about her character arc at this point because they kind of blew it when all of a sudden she has these miraculous force powers that no one else ever had in the Star Wars universe. It's like, okay, that's great.
Well, they did to an extent in the books that they retconned, but they had to build up to it. And then,
yeah.
I mean, this was just a surprise. Here it is, and everyone went, "Huh?"
And it was all just in the service of giving you the shock of her death. And it's like, oh, she's not dead. Like, come on, don't do that. That's terrible. Billy D. Williams, though, that's exciting to me. I think that's very cool because
he's 82.
But because there's something, I can see them doing something with that character.
Yeah.
You know, what's General Leia's going to do? She's going to issue some more orders, and maybe this time she'll die. Who knows? I mean, I don't care. It's not supposed to be about those characters anymore. Billy D. Williams deserves to come back because that's an iconic role, and he did such a fantastic job. And yeah, Donald Glover absolutely nailed it in Solo. But yeah. I really wanted Billy D. Williams. That's really cool. Everyone else got to come back, basically, so he should get his shot. And hopefully that's it. One movie, done. We don't need to go on with Lando. So I like that aspect of it. But it's not supposed. This is supposed to be the new stories. So we're done with Leia, please. I mean, how much more footage can you possibly have? It's like, no, don't do this.
Yeah. Let's see. Moving on to a movie coming out in January in Japan, but it will come over here soon enough. They're making it's from the Dragon Ball universe.
Oop.
Only this time it's the Dragon Ball Super universe. If you know the series, this is going to make sense. The original series did have movies that went along with it, but they were not part of the actual series because they couldn't have taken place because there were a lot of continuity errors. They were good stories using the same characters, but they didn't work in the main continuity, so they were all written off, which upset a lot of people because that means the character of Broly was never introduced. Now they're going to be introducing him. He's going to be part of the mainstream universe, even though there's not a mainstream universe because the series is ended. Whatever. The movie coming out in 2019 is called Broly. Hey, what do you know? So that should make some people happy. Want to do something that I normally do on the FWAT show.
Ooh.
I have a thing called Stupid Headlines.
Yes.
And I found one this week that was movie related and said, you know what? I'm going to put it on Cinema-Savants instead. It has to do with the Dune movie being made by, Villeneuve.
Yes.
Big French name. They announced that it's going to be a 2-part movie. Now, we knew this. We've known this for months. 2-part movie. The headline that I read from sci-fi.com, the Sci-Fi Wire, which gives us all of our movie news, if we decide to go there, which we don't always. The headline read, Dune reboot set to cover the events of the first half of the book. Duh! Come on, we know it's a 2-part movie, and the first part of the first movie is going to cover the first part of the book. How's that? Did you edit?
Well, maybe some people didn't know that it was a 2-part movie.
How could they not know that? That was the subtitle.
I know.
And they've only been announcing it since, April of last year. I mean, it's ridiculous. Come on.
They probably had to meet deadline.
I guess. Quick, write a headline. Here. The first half will be the first half. What do you know? What a concept. Speaking of interesting concepts.
Yes.
Adam Savage is returning to Mythbusters, kind of. They're doing a new show version of the show called Mythbusters Junior, where they're bringing in kids who have been doing the Mythbusters type experiments, and he's going to be hosting that because he's trying to promote a program called STEAM, which is the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, which is a good things to promote that
Yeah.
Some people in our government decided we don't need any more, which is wrong. And I like the idea of him he says he likes the idea of working with the kids to promote all this stuff. So I think it's a cool idea.
I kind of like the idea, but I'm so
it's not
over
going to last long.
Mythbusters. I haven't watched Mythbusters in probably 4 or 5 years because they started doing such stupid crap because they basically kind of ran out of myths. And one of the last episodes I watched was they were trying to figure out if there was a myth that Archimedes had designed this heat ray to destroy a fleet attacking the Greeks. I don't remember if it was supposed to be the Phoenicians.
I do remember that.
You remember that, right?
Yeah.
And they couldn't replicate it, so they said, well, this is a myth. Except that a team at MIT, which is actually has people who are budding scientists, as opposed to a special effects guy and Adam Savage, actually did do it. They just didn't do it right on Mythbusters, so they said, oh, we can't do it. It's like, no, you guys couldn't do it. That doesn't mean it's a myth. That doesn't mean it's not true. And they started doing so many stupid things. It's like this show has just gone to crap. The first few seasons are great. They're really fun. They're cool.
Yeah.
But after that, it's like, come on, you guys you're only doing crap to keep making money to stay in the air. You're not doing anything really interesting. And when you try to do something interesting, you don't do it right. And you proclaim just because you can't do it, just because we couldn't replicate, something that Archimedes did. I'm sorry, one of the greatest scientists ever in humanity, and you can figure it out. Oh, well, it can't be done. No, it just means that you guys aren't as good as he was. Think about that for a second. It's like after that, it's just, no, dudes, you guys absolutely suck. So I'm not particularly interested in this. It's cool to bring in kids. It's cool to promote the concept of STEAM, which is a really good idea because arts funding is almost non-existent in schools,
unfortunately,
because of the push for STEM. So STEAM is awesome. But, dude, I hope you come up with something new. And I hope you promote the fact that just because you guys can't do it doesn't mean it can't be done. That was just awful. I mean, that was basically going against what science is all about. Well, we tried it, and we did one experiment, and we couldn't replicate it, therefore it's not possible. No, that's not how science works, and you guys know better. As you can tell, that really pissed me off. I'm still pissed off about it. It's ridiculous.
Wow. Well, let's see how you feel about this then.
I hope I like it.
Sony is making a movie about Rumpelstiltskin.
Why not?
And I'm thinking about this. I don't know that I've ever seen a Rumpelstiltskin movie that wasn't, the little crap horror films.
Right.
So they got there's a guy who was on, what was it? Game of Thrones, which is coming to an end. So Peter Dinklage had nothing to do. So he's attached as Rumpelstiltskin.
Which is awesome, depending on what they do with this, because he's an awesome actor.
He is.
So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Because, I don't know that there's ever been a version, like you said, that's not just some crap horror knockoff or an after-school special kind of thing. So it'd be an interesting take. So, because it is a cool story.
It is. Let's see. We mentioned Andy Serkis a while ago.
We did.
Yeah, he was in Star Wars and got killed off. Anyway, apparently Warner Brothers killed off Mowgli, which I didn't understand, so Netflix picked it up. I don't know if you know more about this than I do. I just know that Warner Brothers, which was supposed to be releasing it theatrically October 19th,
right,
decided not to.
Yeah, apparently, from what I've read, they got cold feet because they're worried that it might not be a huge hit. So instead of spending millions and millions on promotion and in prints and everything else and distribution, because that's what it takes. I mean, it's like we've talked about it before, but when you look at the budget for a film, you can typically double that for promotion and distribution and all the rest of it. So they've apparently thought, well, we'll cut our losses. We'll just sell it to Netflix. Now, I haven't seen how much Netflix paid for it, but Netflix has been doing this for a while. But this is by far the biggest title that they've picked up because there's been a lot of talk about this, a lot of buzz, a lot of hype. And yes, The Jungle Book just came out a few years ago and made a little bit of money, like over $1 billion.
I mean, they got some big names attached to this. They've got Benedict Cumberbatch, Kristen Bale, Andy Serkis.
I really like. I think it's really interesting. I talked about when the trailer first came out. This looks like a very dark take on the Jungle Book, which I think is interesting. And I know I rail about how Warner Brothers now seems to take the dark view on almost all their superhero movies until Wonder Woman came out, thank goodness. But I think it's interesting because there's a different spin on the story, which
we haven't seen this dark yet.
Yeah, and we've seen the Jungle Book story several times, but this is kind of a different approach. So I like that. And Andy Serkis is behind it. That helps. The cast is awesome. I was really looking forward to this. The fact that Netflix is picking up this and it's worldwide streaming rights, it'll be streamed next year. That is pretty cool. I think that's really cool. And apparently there's going to be, as they say, a theatrical component, which means somewhere at some point they'll release it to some movie theater. I'm not really sure what I guess so they can enter it into competition at Cannes. But they actually did something similar with Annihilation. They got foreign distribution rights. Annihilation was in the theaters here. Everywhere else, though, it was streamed on Netflix. So this is just the next step up with Netflix acquiring bigger and bigger properties. I think it's really cool for Netflix. It's kind of interesting about Warner's. It does make me wonder about the movie itself, though, because if Warner's didn't have confidence, because really I don't even know what that means, because it's Warner Brothers. I mean, sometimes do they know what they're doing? It's like, yeah, and then other times it's like,
not so much.
Yeah, I mean, Ready Player One, that was a fun movie, made a ton of money. That's their movie. Rampage, a very fun movie. Didn't exactly make a ton of money, but I mean, for a movie based on a video game, that's a pretty damn successful movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in some cases they do really good things, and others, they're kind of hurting. But it is an interesting choice to step away from something that potentially could. I mean, I can easily see this making like $500 million on its run, or it could have. And now Netflix bought it. So very interesting decision by Warner's, and I think very smart on Netflix, because this is the more they do this kind of thing, the better they're prepared they're going to be to kind of head off Disney's streaming service and the DC streaming service, and Walmart is talking about making Vudu, because they own Vudu, making Vudu a streaming service. So Netflix is in for tons of competition. Much more than they currently have. So getting a big property like this is a big step for them.
I want to see what you make out of this one, because it's not something I had originally thought of for sequels.
Yeesh.
But then again, everybody makes sequels about everything.
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, there was a film about 3 women who worked with a sexist boss. And it starred Jane Fonda, Dolly Parton, and Lily Tomlin, who, I'm sorry, it's 40 years later. How exactly are they still working in the same office in the same place is what I'm wondering for the 9 to 5 sequel.
It is kind of odd that they're doing a sequel instead of a reboot.
Yeah, Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, and Jane Fonda have all said, yes, we're going to do this. I'm like, I love all 3 of you, but aren't you a bit...
I think it's an interesting idea, because I think they'll be great together, because they were great in that movie. That movie's so good. This certainly couldn't be more timely. As we almost started the show talking about Me Too, and it's like, and here's a movie that really touched on it, hit on it a long time ago, like you said. I'm not sure. I'm sure they won't all be working in the same place. I mean, they'll have all gone on to different careers. Lily will be probably the CEO. Lily Tomlin will be the CEO of some company, because that seemed to be the path she was headed on. Who knows what Dolly's going to be doing? Dolly's going to be doing something weird, because Dolly Parton likes playing little weird offbeat characters. And who knows about Jane Fonda? But they worked so
She'll
well
become
together.
An exercise video guru.
Could be. And marry a multi-billionaire. It'll be really interesting to see what they do with it. It's like you said, it's kind of an odd thing that they're not doing a reboot, because that's what I expected the story was going to be. Because
I had heard whispers of it and thought, oh, they're rebooting it.
A reboot would be great, but they could actually do a reboot anyway. I mean, no reason not to.
They could.
In addition to this,
Dolly, Lily, and Jane are all the parents of the people who are having trouble now. Here's what we did back in the 80s.
And who knows? It might be what it is. But I like the fact that they're in it, and I hope if that's the tack they take, I would hope that they still have the lead roles as opposed to just kind of side characters, because they worked so well together.
They did.
It's just really, really fun, and I think that's cool. I think that's a really cool idea to bring that story back. Normally, it's like, reboots and sequels. It's like, please, let's not do this, but. If the times couldn't be more appropriate for that.
That's actually the last story I've got for the show is Norman-Lear. You remember Norman-Lear?
I remember Norman-Lear.
Coming up on 100 years old. He's and I'm not exaggerating. He's been around since he came with the planet, I think.
Yeah, I believe he did.
But he was responsible for a lot of shows that were huge in the 70s and 80s, and he just signed a 2-year deal with Sony Pictures for the possibility of rebooting shows like All in the Family, Jefferson's Good Times, Sanford and Son, and Maude.
You can leave out Maude. He actually did just turn 96. So yeah, he's coming up. He is coming up on 100. That's pretty interesting because those are a lot of good shows, and Maude actually was a good show too. It is an interesting concept. Strange stuff.
Some of those might work. All in the Family, I'm not sure would work today.
I think they would probably turn it on its head and
they'll gender swap everything.
And Meathead will be the prime character, and I think they'll do something along those lines. Because people aren't laughing at bigots as much these days.
What do you know?
Yeah. So, but the basic concept, absolutely, I'm sure it could work. So that's not necessarily. That's actually kind of an interesting idea. Like I said, it's God knows there's a lot of crap TV on, so not necessarily. I can see how some of this would definitely work.
Someday we'll be reviewing it on the review show, which comes out on Thursday. So stay tuned for that, and come back next Sunday when we'll have more news. Hopefully things will have happened. I would think things would have happened.
Pretty sure things will happen.
Yeah. We'll see you on Thursday.
Captain, we're losing power in the warp engines.
I think we should be leaving now.
I'm going to go home and sleep with my wife.
And on that unusually harmonious bombshell, it is time to end.
I am very disappointed!
Man, we have a weird job.
It's shameful, but, it's a living.
And like that, he's gone.
Darn, that's the end.